Just like most nations, women had little to say in rulemaking and governance. But sometimes a woman like Wu Zetian takes power, and the scale tips over. One of the most iconic female leaders from ancient China, Wu Zetian, broke norms when she sat as the only female emperor that ever ruled the nation. In fact, this happened during the earlier days when women were given little to nothing to say regarding nation building and were restricted from taking positions that allowed them to exercise some sort of power. History reveals that whenever a woman takes charge of a nation, it is not because she was chosen by the people. Most of the time, it's either because of stealth or by default when rare occasions arise, just like when a king fails to have a son to inherit the crown. However, Wu Zetian's demise was as spectacular as her rise. From cheating on the emperor and killing her children to falling into a tragic trap, Wu Zetian is clearly one of a kind for good and bad reasons. Welcome to Crazy Histories, where we bring you the craziest and weirdest facts from human history. Some of the things discussed in this video may be offensive or disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. Women in ancient China. Earlier civilizations did not allow Chinese women to hold positions of power. Back then, women were considered subordinate to their fathers, to their husbands, and, once widowed, to their sons. There was no way for women to rise up the social ladder and become influential members of society. Because of this, they are expected to stay in the house and take care of the children. And since they are given no say whatsoever, women are expected to turn a blind eye to their husband's infidelity. Arranged marriage also plays a big part in this stigma. If not all, then most unions that happened in ancient China were the result of agreements made between the parties' parents. There's no need for love or affection. Once the elders reach an agreement, a man and a woman can get married. Parents also don't wait until their child reaches the age of majority before they are arranged to marry another person. The act of carrying the bride on a red bridal chair carries a deeper meaning. Aside from the rituals and aesthetic, it is a way of showing how a woman is carried out of her home to become part of her husband's property. This is further illustrated through the ancient practice of foot binding. It was believed that small feet are preferred by future husbands. Thus, young girls would crush their feet to impress a person of the opposite sex. Aside from these biases toward men, a woman is not allowed to divorce her husband, while the latter can, and the list of reasons to divorce a wife contains almost everything. Because of this, it's pretty obvious why it's almost impossible for a woman to rule the nations. However, there are rare gems that rise to power once in a while, just like how Wu Zetian made her way to the top of the hierarchy. Who is Wu Zetian? Also known as Wu Zhao, Wu Zetian was the only legitimate female emperor in the history of ancient China. She became the de facto ruler of the Tang dynasty from 665 to 705. Before she took over the throne, she was the wife of then Emperor Gaozong. After the emperor died, Emperors Zhongzong and Ruzong took over. Even during her time as Empress consort, Wu already had a very strong political opinion, which was not considered normal for someone like her. Her climb toward the top of the social ladder started when she became part of Gaozong's harem as one of his concubines. During those times, she had to outdo another female concubine in order to rise to the top and gain the emperor's affection. Historians were bold enough to call her the true power behind her husband's throne because of her determination and wits. When the emperor died, Wu Zetian needed to step away from her most coveted throne because her sons were to inherit after their father. However, she did something a mother would never do. Wu proved that she can do anything to secure her position, even if this means killing her own sons. Her decision came after she realized how timid her eldest son was, and how the latter was too obsessive with his queen. Because of this, she abolished him and strategically nominated her fourth son to the crown. After that, she imprisoned the new emperor inside the palace and took over. Evidently, not everyone was happy to see a woman take over the throne, so people started to rebel. However, Wu didn't budge and instead sent 30,000 soldiers to combat the coup. After that, she changed the name of the dynasty to Zhou and declared herself emperor. Some historians would even say that Wu Zetian literally placed the crown over her own head, and I think there's no better way to describe how she went from a concubine to an empress. Wu Zetian and her male concubines. Like any ruler, Wu Zetian has her own concubines. However, Wu didn't settle for one or two because she created a harem of her own. In her twilight years, she started favoring two male concubines. More popularly known as the Zhang brothers, Wu spent a lot of time with the brothers. She kept them so close that people considered them Wu's eyes and ears in the palace. Wu already stirred quite a ruckus when she started ruling the empire. However, things got messier after rumors about her erotic encounters shook the entire nation. Described as nothing less than scandalous, Wu's harem was criticized for obvious reasons. Coupled with her questionable behavior, which was very unlikely for a ruler like her, officials raised their eyebrows whenever they hear about Wu Zetian's actions for being the indulgences of a woman of advanced age. According to Anderson, servants provided her with a string of virile lovers, such as one lusty, big-limbed lout of a peddler, whom she allowed frequenting her private apartment. In her 70s, Wu showered special favor on two smooth-cheeked brothers, the Zhang brothers, former boy singers, the nature of whose private relationship with their imperial mistress has never been precisely determined. One of the brothers, she declared, had a face as beautiful as a lotus flower, while it is said she valued the other for his talents in the bedchamber. The Empress, greatly weakened by infirmity and old age, would allow only the Zhang brothers by her side. The brothers were described as beautiful, wore flamboyant makeup, and paraded themselves in flashy outfits. They were not the only men who surrounded Wu, but the two were her absolute favorites. Aside from satisfying her desires, the Zhang brothers became prominent figures in the dynasty. This happened at a time when Wu was already 70 years old. They were appointed to manage most of the empire's important affairs, despite being old and weak, with the brothers as their closest consort. This triggered criticism from many key officials of the court. The outrage was justified. The Zhang brothers live up to the way they look. They run the court like it's a brothel and party all night. They were able to do this and more because of the good grace they were given. It didn't even help that Wu allowed them to do whatever they wanted. In the long run, officials can't take it anymore and decide that they need to do something to stop this takeover. When the Empress became very ill, she isolated herself and only allowed her favorite male concubines inside her quarters. Because of this almost blind favoritism, a rebellion began against Wu, and when she finally regained her health, it was already too late. In 705, a coup was successfully staged, and the Zhang brothers were captured and eventually beheaded. After the tragic demise of her beloved concubines, Wu Zetian was left with no choice but to surrender the throne. The position was passed to her son, Li Xian. Soon after, she died at the age of 81. Despite all the good things she did for the empire, her tombstone remained unwritten. Her body was laid to rest with her husband Gaozong in Xialing Mausoleum, Shaanxi Province. However, historians interpreted this as nothing but positive. Most believed that her tomb remained unwritten because all the things she was able to achieve could not be described with mere words. Others think this was a punishment for overthrowing the long-standing norm of male emperors. Whatever the reasons might be, one thing is for sure: Wu Zetian is an icon, a person who will be remembered as the only woman who ever ruled ancient China. We hope you liked the video and hit the like and subscribe buttons. Make sure to enable post notifications and share your thoughts on this strange love story in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.